what else is headed our way, because we're not in the clear just yet. You can still see that atmospheric river, although it is very weak. It's now moving into British Columbia, not bringing much precipitation with it, but eventually it's going to bring a front to western Washington heading into the weekend. So this is what we're looking at for the weekend. So receding rivers, that's going to continue, slow but surely though, thankfully, but the elevated risk for landslides as well as debris flows, that's going to continue, not just this weekend, but beyond. We are just so waterlogged at this point, so saturated that it's going to take a little bit of time for our soils to catch up. Into next week, we could have yet another atmospheric river moving in, or at least we get clipped by one, but later in the week, we also have to watch for yet another one. And atmospheric rivers are common on the West Coast. It's just these strong ones that we really have to watch out for. So Monday, we're going to have heavy rain generally below 6,000 feet. Tuesday and Wednesday, snow levels really come down. That's when we'll have the best chance to get some lower elevation snow. So some of our passes, as low as Snoqualmie Pass, which again, if you are familiar with Snoqualmie Pass, we need the snow there. We need snow at all of our ski resorts and our mountains. As of 10 o'clock Friday, this is where we stand. So the Snohomish, at Snohomish, it is still flooding, still in major flood stage. It's really held steady. The Cedar at Runton, that has caused a lot of flooding, as you well know, you saw us talk about it. It is dropping or holding steady, but it's still in major flood stage. The Skagit at Mount Vernon, again, as of 10 o'clock on Friday, it is still above major flood stage, and thankfully it is dropping. Here's a look at our flood warnings. Still, at least 11 of our rivers have flood warnings in place, which essentially means we're going to have river flooding with this, especially just because we're still dealing with a lot of the overflow. It's going to take some time for these rivers to recede, but those are in place until further notice. Flash flood watch is still in place for Skagit and Snohomish until tomorrow morning, just because as the Skagit River begins to recede, that could add extra pressure to the levees and the dikes up there, keeping all of this water out. And so thankfully it did not breach the levees and dikes up there, but we still have to watch carefully. So not in the clear completely. This was issued by the National Weather Service to say that, hey, it's still possible they fail. And if they do, it would cause rapid rising of the waters beyond the levees and the dikes. So we'll have to watch out for that. But so far, so good. But that's why we have that flash flood watch in place. Again, this is as of 10 o'clock this morning. I'm pointing attention to next week, because with that atmospheric river and our high snow levels, we're going to get that heavy rain over the Cascades. So we could have some of our rivers come up by the middle half of the week. In the Skagit near Mount Vernon, currently forecast, obviously this will change. It could approach major flood stage once again. The Snohomish at Snohomish may come up to about minor flood stage, but this could change depending on how heavy the rain ends up being. And then the Snoqualmie near Carnation, if you're familiar with Snoqualmie Falls, this could cause some of the raging waters that you may have seen on social media, some of the videos there. Also could approach that moderate flood stage by the middle half of next week. The Cowlitz at Randall may come up to about moderate flood stage, but you see on the 10th, the 11th, it was above major flood stage. Here's some of the 5-day rain totals. This is just one of many, and this was all compiled by the National Weather Service in Seattle, December 7th through December 11th. Look at some of these rain totals just over the span of a couple of days. Olympic National Park, they're used to seeing a lot of rain, but still, that water had to go somewhere, so pushing 17 inches of rain. Centralia, closer to the Chehalis Valley, down I-5, close to 11 inches of rain. Skykomish, almost 14 inches of rain. And here's just kind of a broad view. The Olympic Peninsula typically are wet spots, but 5 to 17 inches. The lowlands, including the Seattle metro, anywhere between about 2 and 4, but the lowlands east of Seattle and then north of Seattle, some picked up close to 10 inches of rain. The Cascades, that was the winner for at least widespread, because 8 to about 15 inches of rain. And even with all of that rain, we are still well below where we should be this time of year, especially SeaTac and Olympia. Our deficit is just still very, very large. And so that just goes to show how dry we were all summer long. Now, let's talk about those storm reports. You see all these dots? Those are reports of mudslides, landslides, debris flows, especially along our Cascade passes. But even in the lowlands closer to South Seattle and then just east of 405, if you're familiar with the Seattle area. So that risk will continue into next week and beyond, as I mentioned, just because of how waterlogged we are. I wanted to also show you just the 7-day, because we are still in first alert weather mode because of the flooding risk. But into the weekend, we'll start to see more rain, some sun breaks on Sunday, but we'll also get rain to showers. But it's really Monday into Tuesday, Wednesday, and even into Thursday when we're going to have to watch. And by the way, Hanukkah begins at sundown on Sunday, but Monday will be the first full day of Hanukkah. Here's a look at the satellite and radar. You see again that atmospheric river now moving to the north, but this is what I was talking about with potentially our next atmospheric river moving in. Watch by Monday. It's going to be quick moving. It's not going to sit over our area, but into Thursday, could have one aiming at Washington or Oregon, but that's a week away. We'll keep you posted on that. But this just goes to show rounds of rain. We're typically on the wet side anyway in December, our second wettest month, but still it's going to be pretty sloppy, and we'll have to watch out how our snow levels are and so on and so forth. Our Queen Anne camera overlooking Seattle, can't see anything. Mount Rainier, we don't have much in the way of snow because of all of that snow melt. And the top Hurricane Ridge, this is over 5,000 feet. You can't see any snow. That just goes to show how warm we've been. All that heavy rain melted all of that snow. Our temperatures today are going to be about 10 degrees above normal. And tomorrow morning, about 10 degrees above normal, and tomorrow we're still very warm, but we'll get some sun in the mix as well, thankfully. Here's a look going forward into our Saturday. We'll start off with some low clouds and we'll have some fog in the mix, but rain moves in Saturday night and into Sunday. But this shouldn't be heavy, heavy rain. It's Monday that we'll have to watch out for.
Portland is running more than 7.5 degrees above average. We hit 62 again yesterday, so back-to-back days in the 60s. It has been crazy warm, which has been terrible for Mount Hood snowpack. Hold on a second. This is a look at the GFS, and the European model for that matter are both indicating that snow levels drop, and not just for a day or two next week, but maybe a period of 5 to 10 days of lower elevation snow, back to what we would typically see this time of the year. So there is some hope that we'll get some Cascade snow here as we get into the middle and latter stages of December, heading towards the Christmas holiday. Of course, that's still days away, but just wanted to throw that out there, that's something we've been watching. This morning, we're watching kind of a foggy morning commute, some patchy drizzle as well. That will lift. Tomorrow, I think, starts off equally foggy, but Saturday will probably wind up being the nicest day in our 7-day forecast. Some light rain returns on Sunday. More significant rain returns early next week. Let's get into that because I know that's top of mind after all the intense flooding that parts of the region have seen. We do tap into some subtropical moisture next week. This is Monday and Tuesday. That being said, this is nothing like what we experienced earlier this week. We do have some rainy weather, and this will be significant rain for Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. And by the way, that will likely be rain initially in the Cascades to the tune of about maybe an inch and a half up and down the I-5 corridor. Mind you, this is cumulative over about 3.5 days. So we're not getting this all in one system. But again, just kind of highlighting the fact that early next week is going to be pretty wet. All right, that's then. For now, we are socked in with the fog. The live look from downtown, the Wells Fargo building, which is up in the low cloud deck. We're mostly cloudy right now from our Rose City Sky Camera 54. Our Chehalem Tasting Room camera, usually we can see Mount Hood off in the distance. It is socked in. So we do have areas of dense fog. It has improved some, but right now the fog down towards McMinnville, you're socked in with about a quarter or a half a mile visibility, and the dense fog advisory continues for another hour or so. for that part of our viewing area. Low clouds and fog should lift a little bit, especially here in the Portland, Vancouver metro area. So we will poke some holes in that, kind of like we did yesterday afternoon. And with that, temperatures will warm into the mid to upper 50s this afternoon. Fast forwarding futurecast into the overnight and early morning hours, our modeling once again highlighting valley fog here. It'll be pretty thick, I think, from basically Kelso and Longview through Vancouver, Portland, Salem, and beyond. So tomorrow morning is likely a foggy morning, but then we get some sunshine in our afternoon forecast on Saturday. All right, foggy to start today, and then we'll go mostly cloudy this afternoon with temperatures inching into the mid 50s. Not as warm as we've been, but still well above average. Of course, the normal high this time of the year is 47, so we're still doing way over that for the next few days. Saturday is probably the nicest day of my 7-day forecast, so if you really want some dry weather, and that's not easy to come by in December in Portland, but tomorrow looks like a good day. Some showers on Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week are fairly rainy.
So you got to take flooding seriously, and that's just one such example of some serious stuff happening in North Idaho due to the mountain snow melt, the recent rainfall, and just the general warmth. It's like a domino effect as it goes along. So we have very high rivers and flooding because of all of that. Rivers expected to crest today, and then those river levels should drop the next couple days thanks to it not being as rainy for the next 72 hours. Rock and mudslides would also be possible. We've been seeing that in the region as well. All this due to the atmospheric river, which has been in place for about a week already, could still be here for the next 5 days in a row. And while the rain will start to ease off for at least 3 days, the heat will not. Yes, the warmth might feel nice. Even I was able to wear shorts yesterday, but realize that those secondary impacts like the flooding and the snow melt is a result of exactly this. 49 degrees for a high today is still 15 degrees above average for Spokane. And remember, low temperatures above 40 degrees is way above average for the season. And these temperatures don't move this weekend. They'll stay at about 50 degrees. A bit of sunshine will make for a pretty excellent looking December day. Very much warm for the season. Next chance of rain would be on Sunday. I honestly think Monday, Tuesday of next week is when we're going to get our next round of heavier rain. That's as the atmospheric river repositions and regrabs some new moisture out of the Pacific Ocean. That will result in more warmth and more rain, especially for early next week with highs in the low 50s.